Mr. Rogers is? Anybody know who Mr. Rogers is? Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, yes. Exactly. All right, so this is a picture of me with Mr. Rogers. Now, if you don't know who he is, this is probably not very impressive to you at all. The thing about Mr. Rogers is he started a television show trying to help kids who didn't have access to school, and some who did have access to school. So I've always been interested in caring for children. So I'm currently working with a company that Guy will talk to you about in a little bit called Lightbridge Academy. Have you ever seen the sign around here? Oh, yes. Lightbridge Academy? Have you? Where'd you see it?
Not sure, but I remember.
But you saw it? All right, great. So Brenda actually helped make that design, and Guy started the company, and now we have 40 child care centers that are open, 100 plus that are sold. But what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is my journey. So I'm the mom of 4 kids. One is 23, 22, 20, and 17. So what year are you guys? Freshmen? You just started? So did they tell you there was a swimming pool on the...
Yes.
They did, yeah. They do that a lot.
Also in 6th grade.
Yeah, what else did they tell you here?
That's it. They were just like, don't fall for the swimming pool, and that's all they did. Like, there's no swimming pool, we swear.
Yeah, there's no swimming pool, but here's the deal. You're almost done, and in just like a few weeks, you're going to be sophomores. So that's going to be good. All right, so how many of you have ever shot a video or taken a selfie of yourself? About how many do you think you take a day? How many selfies? Do you think you take 5? Raise your hand. Do you think you take 10 selfies? 20 selfies? Do you know that when I was young, we never took pictures of ourselves? Other people took pictures of us. And then we had this really cool thing that happened, and it was called a Polaroid camera. Does anybody know what a Polaroid camera is? All right, what is it?
That's the camera. You snap the picture, then the photo comes out the bottom. You gotta shake it.
You gotta shake it, but you don't have to shake it, but you do. I don't know why you shake it. Have you ever seen a Polaroid?
Yeah.
Any of you guys? Okay, so that was the closest thing that we ever got, but we never thought of doing that. Now, the reason I talked to you about that is that one of the things that I had the great pleasure of doing is I got to host a television show. And the television show that I hosted was called Today's Family. And it was with Comcast, before Comcast was Xfinity. And it was all about, this is a little bit about it, and I can pass it around. And this is all about the show that I had. I had about 300,000 viewers, and I focused on everything that had to do with families. Because my whole life, I've been into kids. When I was 9, I started a summer camp in my backyard, and I had about 10 kids, and I only charged, this is where I was not the entrepreneur, Guy's the entrepreneur, I only charged 50 cents a week. Yeah, that was a problem. But it tells you a little bit about the people that I got to meet and I got to interview, and some of these people you won't know, but it was really exciting and a fun time for me. So that was one of the things that I got to do. Another thing that I got to do, I think some of this will be even interesting to my business associates, is I started a company called Mom Matters. And Mom Matters was a complete organizational process for moms. So it's got in here everything you need to do, how I'm going to plan my week for my kids, where am I going to keep my receipts and my files, I'm going to do meal planning, I'm going to do shopping, I'm going to do a perpetual calendar. Does anybody know the difference between a perpetual calendar and a regular calendar? Want to take a guess? So what's perpetual mean? Anybody know? It's happening over and over, right? So what's some sort of date? Come on in, sweetie. So what's some kind of date on a calendar that would be on that calendar? It would be on every calendar every year. What?
New Year's.
A holiday? What did you say?
A holiday.
Yeah, a holiday or a birthday. So our perpetual calendar was so you could write down all the birthdays. And this is all pre-computer stuff, so that you would know exactly when that person's computer is. So here's what we did with this whole thing. We've got a file folder with handle. We've got this whole thing that we worked through. If you're interested, I'll pass some of this stuff around. You guys want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate how attentive you're being. So anyway, so with this stuff, Mob Matters, is that QVC, you know QVC on TV? Have you ever seen QVC? So QVC had, probably 10 years ago, they picked the 100 best concepts in the country who got to go to QVC and vie for #1 concept. I am not the #1 concept, or I probably would not be here today. That was a joke. Or maybe I would be here today, giving back. So anyway, so we had to go to QVC with 100 other different concepts, and our organizational concept was there. And if QVC picks you, they actually help you set up your whole marketing plan. They help you finance. They help you do all the things that you need to do in order to sell that merchandise really great. So they're looking for a couple things. They're looking for a really cool concept, and they're looking for someone who could be okay on television. So you want to know who won?
Who won?
Of the 100 best?
Who?
This guy who had a rubber pizza that helped people who were learning to toss pizzas in the air, like to make pizzas, practice. Yeah, that's who won.
You got beat out by a rubber pizza.
I got beat up by a rubber pizza. So anyway, so I didn't give up. So I reinvented myself. I kept doing more and more and more. So then, once I had 4 children, which is a lot of kids. Anybody in a family that has that many kids? Yeah, you are. You know what that's like. That's like, I want my bed, I want to brush my teeth, I want to take a shower, like, get out. Okay, so then I took time to stay at home and raise my kids, and I started writing books. I didn't start writing books, I started writing. Now I'm going to show you something some of you may never have seen, although I actually think you do have them because I see a couple of them here. And that's one of these. So you still do have these. I see it. It's beat up. You're using it. Okay. So this is what I did to write my first book. This is what it looks like. So this is it. Kind of think of it like a baby. So this is the beginning part. This is not health class, so we're not going to get into the whole thing here. And so I just wrote down all my thoughts. Whenever I was thinking, I would just journal and write and write and write and write and write and write. And this is only one of them. I have, unfortunately, thousands of these because I'm always writing. But what it ends up looking like is that became this. So who knows what language this is? Spanish. Do I speak Spanish? I don't speak Spanish. So how is it that I have a book that's in Spanish? It was translated. All right, so let me take you a little bit from what it looks like to get a concept of being an author to actually getting your book published. So if you look up any of my books, and there are a lot of them, they're Walmart, Target, everywhere you can imagine. So it all started with this. And then it went to this, where I actually printed it up. Oh, I forgot to show you where it really started. Right here. Do you ever see that, where people like just grab a napkin and start writing down ideas? I'm the kind of person who needs a piece of paper all the time. My car, my glove compartment, my office is just full of ideas. And I'm trying to do more on the computer. But anyway, so after that, typed it up, edited it, and then send it in to the publishing company. I'm going to see what these ideas are before I pass this around. I'm going to pass my napkin. Here you go. I don't think I've actually executed that idea yet. Okay. So from here, send that into the publishing company, and this is what the publishing company sends you back. This. This is the markup of what a book looks like before it's published. So before a book is published, you guys ever write a paper and your teachers want you to edit it? A book is edited 6 to 8 times before it actually comes to market. And then, have you ever read a book and you actually still saw that there was a mistake in it?
Yes.
Pretty amazing, right? And that's how many times that it was edited. So, when I tried to get my first book published, it wasn't happening fast enough for me. Do you ever feel that way? You ever stand in front of the microwave and you're like, okay, come on, hurry up. Or waiting for a friend to text back to you. You know, like, come on, where are they? Text back to me. So I decided I was going to write my own book. And I did. So I wrote this book called Teacher Tips. This is the first book that wasn't published, but that I wrote. And I did all the illustrations inside, or either my children did. So I'll pass this one around. I don't think I passed anything down the middle. And then I continued to write, and continued to write, and continued to write, and got in magazines, and wrote in a children's book. I'm gonna read to you the children's literature that I wrote. Are you ready for it? Okay, because if you don't listen really well, you'll miss it. Children's literature is the hardest thing to ever publish. Why do you think that is? Yes, sir.
They need to put it in a way that they can understand.
You need, wow, very well put. You need to put it in a way that people can understand. Yes, perfect. What do you think is another reason why children's literature is really hard to get published? Can you think of something? There are no wrong answers. There's so much of it. Excellent. Great answer.
You have to put yourself in the children's shoes.
You got to put yourself in the perspective of the child. Exactly. One of my favorite quotes is, "May you see the world through the eyes of a child." What else? Did you have an idea?
No.
I bet you did. All right, keep thinking. Okay. All right, so here you go. I'm going to read it. This is the only children's literature that I've gotten published, despite the fact that I have 18 published books. This is my great desire to publish in children's literature. It's called Cars and Trucks and Trains. The cars go by, zoom, zoom, zoom. The trucks go by, vroom, vroom, vroom. Remember when your preschool teacher dressed you like that? Do you have a preschool here that you do? Like for vacation? You don't have a childcare center? All right, here we go. The train goes by, chug, chug, chug. The mommy goes by, hug, hug, hug. That's it.
That's the whole book.
That's all the book. And I didn't even do the illustrations.
Did you have to pay somebody extra to do those illustrations, or
No.
it just comes with like the publishing package?
So really cool question. So I wrote the words and got paid for those few words. And I would tell you how much I got paid just so because it's interesting. And it was many years ago, but I got $1,000 for writing that many words.
Oh goodness.
Pretty cool, right? All right, now don't get too excited because I'm going to tell you something. Come on in, honey.
No, it's okay. I'll
No,
take it.
yeah, it's
Okay, thank you, though.
thanks.
Okay. Okay, so I'll pass this around if you're interested. All right. You got a thought?
I'm actually for the book.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay. I'm gonna wait. You're gonna have a thought before I leave. That's gonna be happening. Okay. So. Then I started writing for magazines as well. So this is one for families and children at a Head Start. This is one on children's programs in kindergarten. Here's one that's Parenting Magazine. you've ever seen these magazines, a lot of this stuff is all online now. As an author, you can get paid by the word, for every word you write. You can get paid by the column, or you can get paid by a book. So I want you to think about buying a book, whether you buy it online, or whether you buy the book as a book that you hold. Do you have any books that you actually purchase anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do?
I still have books in my house. I read them all already though.
Awesome. Do you want to tell me the last book that you read, or you don't want to
I
share?
can't remember. That's the book I'm reading right now is probably in an English class, because that's where like a lot of my favorite books come from.
Okay.
Because I don't have to purchase them, and they're good books.
Yeah,
So I read
awesome.
them. So we're reading
So-
something like the Holocaust. It's by Whitney.
Yeah, that's a great book. Sad.
Like,
All right, so I'm going to bring you back to some ideas and to the financial piece, and I'm going to take you to some ideas and concepts. All right, so you're like, wow, that's cool. She's writing a book. This is a textbook, actually, that's used in community colleges and colleges to teach students about early childhood education. Now, these books, and I actually have one book in Mandarin too, so that's been translated. I don't speak Mandarin either. These books cost, if you buy this book at the store, or you buy it online, it costs about $10. Okay? So how much money do you think I get, and that's my royalty, because my royalty is the amount of money that I make. And now the publisher owns these words. I no longer own these words. They own these words, and they created the cover. So it's kind of like incubating a baby, and you don't know what's going to come out, what it's going to look like. That's how books are, unless you're Stephen King or somebody. Comes out, this is what it looks like. All right, so how much money do you think I make on each book? $7? $3? $4. Good. $30? No, that would be really super cool.
book costs $10 though.
No, but you know what? There are people, so to his point, great answer, is there are people who are famous enough that their things get marked up. You know, like when a new sneaker line launches,
Yes.
you get that drop, you buy that sneaker, you can resell it, same deal. So you're right. But I don't get that. I'm not that cool. Okay? All right, so here's the deal. I make, and this is a math question, so I'm really expecting everybody to know this one. I make 10% on $10 on each book. How much do I make? $1. So if I go to the mall and I buy a t-shirt that's $30, no tax and no discount, how many books did I have to sell?
30. No, yeah, 30. Sure, the 10%.
30. All right, but good thinking. Everybody was on the right track of trying to figure it out. And here's the thing about business. You're not always going to get it back. Did I get on QVC? Nope. So did I just go home and give up?
No, kept working.
Kept working till I found something. Okay, so the publishing thing is actually working out for me. I just got back, super cool. I was asked to speak. So once you start writing books, people want you to talk about those books. So I just got back from China, where they asked me to speak. What?
I said me too.
You did? Where were you?
I went to Beijing. I went to like 3 cities.
What were you doing that for?
I was like an exchange student.
Very cool. So what'd you think? I was in Shanghai.
It was alright. I went to Shanghai.
You did? It was all right. So what was the greatest thing about it, and what was the thing that wasn't so great about going to China?
The greatest thing was the weather was good though.
The weather was
It
good.
was warm, and the worst thing was probably like the food or the driving. Like they don't drive good over there.
They drive like it's like New York on steroids. And also, I will tell you, the food is a little crazy. We're deviating now, but this is interesting, so we're going to go down this path. I'll eat almost anything. There are two things that I wouldn't eat in China. One was frogs. I didn't want to eat frogs. Just not my thing, and I wasn't into the pickled snake.
Pickled?
Yeah, it was pickled. You know what a pickle looks like. Pickled snake.
It's like snakes in
All right, now that I got your attention, let's focus back onto the book situation. Okay? So one of the things that's really important, and Guy's going to talk to you about this in a second, Mr. Falzarano to you, is it's going to be talking about what is it that makes you happy? What's your passion? All right, so I'm not going to ask you that because I don't want to hear some weird and illegal things right now, given how old you are. But I am going to ask you this. I am going to ask you right now, in your mind, to think that if you were going to write a book, what would the subject of that book be? It could be a big book, a little book. It could be any subject you want, anything at all. What would your book be? And don't try to be a smart, can I say that?
Yeah.
A. Okay. Don't try to be that. All right? Because I won't put up with it. All right. So what is it you would want to write about? So I'm going to give you just a few seconds to think about it. And listen, everybody better be thinking because I'm just going to call on one person. You're going to be put on the spot. You're going to have to think of something. So think. And if you want to talk to the person next to you so that you can get a little bit of an idea, if you can't think of something, then I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. If you keep your voices low.
You're a book reader. You're bored.
Good job.
Alright, well, now we're trying. Oh, you want to see where next, right? Yo, where, bro?
Alright. At this point, your conversation is probably deviating to what you're going to do after school. Okay. So, is there anyone who wants to volunteer for what the subject of your book would be? Anybody want to volunteer? Yes, sir.
I'd say it would be like a horror type of book. Like, it would be like more towards, like a scary book, like
Yeah.
if it were Goosebumps or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to do something that's suspenseful,
Yeah.
something that's a mystery, but scary.
Yeah.
Really scary? Like Friday the 13th scary?
A little more toned down.
A little more toned down than that. Okay. There's a lot of demand for that kind of suspense. And those are hard books to write because you're getting someone up to that point. Right? So you're kind of building to that person. Right? Don't you always wonder why the babysitter doesn't just leave the house? Have you ever thought of that? In those scary movies, why she's on the phone going, I think there's someone in the house. But I'm like, hey girl, go, run.
It's not mine. It's not mine.
Well, she could go out and like call the police would be safer to get the kids than to stay in the house, right? Okay, anyway, not a babysitting thing. All right, so got one great idea over here, and I bet there are a whole bunch more great ideas. So who else wants to volunteer? What would you write about?
The evolution of teenage life.
The evolution of teenage life. That would be super, super cool. And I believe that writing doesn't have to be a whole book. Like if you see a whole book, you see all these words, doesn't it kind of overwhelm you? Like, I'm not doing that. So you could start with just a few words. You could start with writing a paragraph on it. You could start with, when I have to write, and sometimes I don't feel like it, I write a paragraph a day or a page a day. It becomes a habit. You could start writing yours by just a few sentences a day. You could start blogging about yours. You could start doing yours through Instagram today. How many people know what an influencer is? On Instagram. Okay. So my daughter out in LA is an influencer in the fitness world. Now, she's not a huge influencer. She's not getting a ton of money, but she's getting a ton of products because people want to see her with that product. Whatever your passion is, whatever you love to do that. As long as it's not hurting other people and it's doing great things for people. And remembering, you're never too young to start doing that. And you're never too old to change your mind and do something totally different. I've reinvented myself a million times. But it's usually always had to do with the theme about kids. All right, great. 2 great ideas. Okay, I want to hear a couple more of what people would write. Anybody on this side is going to volunteer? Or am I going to have to just point you out and make you get that sweaty palm feeling? You ready for the sweaty palm feeling? You could whisper it in my ear if you want.
Oh, wait, so what we want to write about, right?
Yeah, what would you write about?
Music.
Music?
Yeah.
What kind of music? Like the music you listen to on Spotify? Or
No, like instrumental music.
and any kind of instrument in particular?
Upright bass.
Upright bass. Now, some of you in here are probably like, man, I don't read books on upright bass, right? Okay? But do you know how many people share her passion? You can't be all things to all people. You have to be you. You're the best you can be. You're not trying to be him. You're not trying to be him. You're not trying to be her. You're trying to be the best you. But unfortunately, in your society today, with your Instagram and all your other stuff and Facebook, you guys don't use Facebook anymore, do you?
Snapchat.
That's for like, I don't even have one of those. So, is that we're always comparing ourselves to one another. So what you want to write about, there are people who want to hear that. And what you want to write about, there are people who want to hear that. And what you want to write about. And that's why we need a collective group of people like each and every one of you. Because everybody has something to contribute. All right, I'm going to take 2 more. And then I think it's going to be time for me to turn it over to my supervisor and my boss. So be really nice to him. So maybe I'll get a raise. Okay. So give me 2 more ideas. What are you going to write about? Who am I going to? I'm going to pick on somebody. Who's going to take it for the class? Is it you?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it?
Motivation.
Motivational book. Okay. So do you have any idea what might be in the book? Like, can you just give us a little tip?
People that have like family struggles, like something's going wrong in their family and that they need help, they feel like obsolete from their family.
I would read your book. So did you hear what he said? It's like you're going through family struggles. Do you ever look at somebody and wish you were them? Good for you guys. I do. And then you find out what their life is really like and you realize, wow.
I don't want to be like that.
Exactly. Right? So we've all got issues and problems. That's a great one. Way to go. So even if you never wrote down that idea, if you had a conversation with another student that helped them feel motivated to move beyond whatever's going on in their family, that would be super cool. Okay. Last one. What's it going to be? I know they're like, don't look at me, no, don't make eye contact. She's going to call on me. I'm not going to call anybody. I'm going to wait. I can wait it out. Somebody's going to volunteer. We're just going to sit here. It's going to be horrible. I knew it! I didn't know it'd be you, but I just knew somebody would do it because no one can stand silence. Okay.
I would write about history, like historical stuff.
Historical stuff. All right. Any particular era of history?
Just any.
Just any history.
Like the wars.
Wars?
The
All
world
right.
wars.
World wars. Now, historically, it's unconventional for women to typically write about that. So that's super cool. And that would be what, and this is what I'm going to leave you with, would be called a hook in publishing and in writing. And that means, what is it that you have that people want to hear about? And I've heard so many great ideas. Motivation, music, history, suspense. So whatever your idea is, if you never, ever, ever want to read a book, that's not okay. You must read. Reading is fundamental. That was a joke, only for the adults. Okay. All right, thank you. But you get to do whatever it is that you want. But here's the thing, no one does it for you. It takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a habit of doing it all the time. So whatever it is that you want, seek it out, be the best you that you can be, and rely on the people that are in your life that support you to help you do that. Because you can do anything you want at any age, and you can get started today. All right? Thank you so much for letting me spend some time with you. I'm going to invite Mr. Calderon. Oh, Brenda's going to go next. Okay.
And then that's coming.
So Brenda's going next. Brenda is marketing and advertising.
I'm actually not going to talk about marketing.
Okay, she's not going to talk about marketing and advertising, but that's what she does.
Yes. So I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Lightbridge Franchise Company. It's the same company that Gigi and Guy work for. Franchise, Gigi sort of went through what we do. We sell, as a franchise company, we actually sell child care centers. And we give them the business model to operate that center and to hopefully make money, which is the goal, right, as an entrepreneur. But what I want to talk to you about is not so much marketing, although we could talk about that the whole hour. What I want to talk to you about is my journey. So I have a 17-year-old son. I have a 13-year-old daughter. And a lot of the conversation as a sophomore is, what am I going to do when I go to college? What am I going to do when I go to college? I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. Everybody knows what they want to do, but I don't know what I want to do. So what I want to share with you is my journey. I started in high school kind of dabbling with acting and singing a little bit. Then I really got into it around senior year. I ended up going to college and majoring in theater and music. I also had another major in mass communications, mainly because my father said, I'm not paying for a theater degree. I'm not paying for a theater degree. I'm like, but I love theater. I want to be an actress. He was like, great, then you pay for it. So I did. I got scholarships. I got a degree in theater, and my father paid for me to get my mass communications degree, right? So I had a double major coming at it, 21 credit hours, a lot. I did that for 15 years. I moved from Missouri, where I lived. I packed a U-Haul because my father said, you can't do that acting thing. You were good in Missouri. You won awards in Missouri. You did good in Missouri. But this is New York. You can't do it in New York. I said, you watch me. I packed a U-Haul, and I drove to New York, and there was one kid that I knew from my college that lived in New York City, and I called him up, and I'm like, do you need a roommate? Because I need a place. And he was like, I guess so. Yeah, okay. So for 15 years, I worked as an actor and a singer in New York City. My first job was with the Light Opera in Manhattan. I sang opera. I didn't really love opera, but I could sing, so I sang it. And then I went on tour. I did some off-Broadway shows. I worked on a ship for 3 years and sang on a ship for 3 years, going from Vancouver through Alaska down to Mexico. I went through the Panama Canal. I got tired of being on ships. And then I went to Nashville, and I recorded an album, and I opened for Faith Hill. And then it was going to be living on a tour bus for about 2 years. And I was like, I don't want to live on a tour bus. been doing this for 15 years. I've missed every wedding, every funeral, every family gathering, constantly living in new cities with people that I don't know, always having to make friends, start over. I loved those 15 years. It was a grand adventure. But I wanted something else, but I didn't know what it was. So I said, well, I'll start temping. When I'm in New York and I'm auditioning for my next gig, I'll just start temping. So I did. I started temping in this business. What do they do? No. I started temping in this business. What do you do? No. And then I started temping in advertising. I was like, these people are cool. I like them. They're creative. I like them. And at that point, because I'm really old, they started introducing the internet and digital marketing and what was this all about. Nobody really knew. They were all trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, if they don't know, I got a good shot at getting into this, right? Because I'm pretty smart. I'm resourceful. So I ended up getting into advertising. That's really how it started. I worked as a nanny once. I worked as a maid in a penthouse apartment across from the Museum of Natural History. And then during the day I would do that. And then I'd go to the theater at night and I would change into my clothes and go do a show. I would temp during the day. I would sleep on the guy's couch after he left because I was working in a financial firm. Sleep on the couch and I would go do another job at night. You know, what my message is to you is that you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. You just have to pick something and start and commit to it and do the very best that you can at that. Start with your passion, what you're really passionate about. But you may find that you change. And what you thought you loved, you know what? You might no longer like it. You might want to do something else. You're going to grow. You're going to change over time. What you love now is not what you're going to love in another 5 years and another 10 years. What you have to do is be yourself, be tenacious, which means that you're committed to make it work. When I moved to New York, I remember I ate macaroni and cheese and peas and tuna for about 9 months. Because I was not calling my father for money. And I wouldn't even take a subway. I would walk. Because I was not calling my father for money. Because he would know that I couldn't make it. I'm like, no. I will do it. So that tenacity will get you far. I wasn't necessarily the best or the most talented, but I was tenacious and I worked hard. You just need to pick something that you can commit to and work hard. And when it no longer works for you, next. Move on. Be one of those people that constantly learns. You're like a lifetime learner. No matter what it is, there's always something new, right? So you don't have to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You just have to pick something that you want to do now, commit to it, and that education is going to take you to the next place. And when I say education, maybe a vocational training, it may be college, it may be many different things, but it will take you to your next step. All you have to do is really put one foot in front of the other, literally. So I think that, there's a whole lot of pressure on you to kind of figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And what I say to you is, I never, ever, ever in a million years thought I would be doing what I am doing now. Never. It wasn't a thought in my head. But I can't think of anything else that I would rather do than what I'm doing right now. I didn't want to do it 15, 20, 30 years ago. But I love it now. So pick something, commit to it, and go after it. Whatever that is. That's really it. That's all I was going to say. It's quite simple. Right now, what I'm doing, so I'm Chief Marketing Officer. So what do? We have Franchising's a little complicated because we are in the business of running childcare centers, but I am not an educator. You can see that Gigi's an educator. She knows how to run a class. I don't. I'm not an educator. I'm a businesswoman. But all I do, so I have someone that runs social media for us. So she takes care of our Instagram, our Pinterest account, our Facebook account, all of that. And public relations. She helps write, get stories in the newspapers for our new franchisees so we get the word out. Builds stories about franchising, the franchise company. Helps us win awards so we can kind of elevate the brand. Then I have somebody who manages the brand itself and all of the components. What's our logo going to look like? What's our signage book going to look like? What's the interior of the building going to look like? So when you walk in, just like when you walk into Starbucks, right? If I blindfolded you and I put you into Starbucks and then I hit all the logos and I took your blindfold off, you'd know you were in Starbucks probably. It has that same look, that same feel. Just like if I took you, put a blindfold on you, and I stuck you in McDonald's. Let's say you don't smell the French fries and everything else, but you're just looking at everything. You're going to know it has a brand, a similar look, feel. Every time you go into one of them, you know it's McDonald's. The outside might be a little different, but the inside is the same. So I have somebody that manages the brand. She helps, works with an advertising agency. The agency creates advertising for us, all brand consistent. And then I have somebody that works in nurture marketing, which is when people call for information on Lightbridge Academy, she responds to them. She basically is sales and marketing. She's selling the consumer, on the product, the service that we offer. There's digital marketing, right? All the digital advertising. So there's so much to advertising and marketing that you could do. There's taking all that information, and these are all the people that are under me, the advertising agencies, the PR firm that we manage. And that's all advertising and marketing. There's so many different types of more creative, more analytical that you can do underneath that umbrella. So that's what I do now. But just remember, the journey getting there isn't always the same, and your journey is going to be different. Maybe it'll be through China, maybe it'll be someplace else. But just stick with it. Pick something and put one foot in front of the other. Mr. Falzerano. So this is my boss. I'm my boss's boss.
So, I wish I would have known Gigi years ago. I think I could have worked out a better deal than the $1 that you got in the book.
And you probably could have done the QVC thing for me, too.
I probably could have, but I don't know if we would have won. That pizza thing was pretty cool. So I am proactive, positive, optimistic, humble, courageous, and kind. I undertake my work every day with the assurance of success, and as such, I magnetize my condition with the forces of the universe to achieve my goals. That's my mission statement. I say it every morning when I wake up. I say it several times throughout the day, and it's the person that I want to be. That's the way I set my life up. So I figure out, who do I want to be? And then I just work on that. And I would suggest that life is confusing right now. Life is always confusing, by the way. It never gets less confusing. I would suggest that you start with your mission statement, write it down, say it to yourself every day, who is the person that I want to be? And then just start working towards that. And Brenda was absolutely correct. Life is a journey. You take one step after another, and as you start moving down the road, opportunities start presenting themselves. And I see this all the time. But if you stay still and you don't do anything, and you plan everything out and say, I'm going to make sure that I've got this all lined up and ready to go before I take a step, life isn't going to work that way. So it's so much better to start moving down the road, and as you're moving down the road, you're going to come to opportunities. When those opportunities present themselves, if you're prepared for them, then you can take advantage of them. So I would suggest that you start that way. So write down a mission statement. It took me many years to get to that mission statement. And it's not something that you have to live with. I change it every once in a while. I make adjustments to it. I decide that I want to be a little bit more of this or a little less of that. And I make adjustments. But I am in control of that. So the key I think is recognizing that you are in control of the decisions that you make. And that you don't have to be influenced by everybody around you. You don't have to let the world beat you up. You know, I run into people all the time who say, "Oh, that person makes me so angry." First of all, that person cannot make you angry. You make yourself angry because of maybe something that person did, but you will let what that person did affect you. You have a reasoned choice to make as to whether you're going to let those things bother you or not. So if you make the decision that these things are not going to bother me, then they won't. So I am blessed. I've got, you met Gigi and Brenda. Well, they are, and they're very humble. Gigi didn't tell you that she actually runs a company. She runs 2 companies that have over 1,200 employees. Last year we did about $50 million in business. And we're serving about 5,000 children. And we're operating in 7 states. We're operating in 4 states right now. But we've sold into 7 states. And she started out writing books. She actually started out as a teacher assistant in a child care center and worked her way up. And all those different jobs were different jobs. Same thing with Brenda. Started out as an entertainer. She didn't tell you she was also a network engineer and working on how the internet was configured. But has done a lot of things through the course of their life. And it's just a journey. It just takes you in the direction that you ultimately wind up. And they made choices to get where they are today. Same thing with me. So I started out, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I was an absolutely terrible student. Horrible. I would go to summer school every year. From 7th grade until I was a junior in high school, I was in summer school every single year. I was a terrible student. And I remember being a junior and going to my father and saying, I think I want to go to college. I want to go to the University of Texas in El Paso. He looked at me and he said, are you kidding? You're not going to college. You can't even get out of high school. So I said, I made the decision as soon as I got out of high school that I was not happy with myself. I was not happy with the fact that I did not apply myself. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't care. I just didn't care. And I realized it was a big mistake. So here I was, 17, because I was kind of young when I graduated. And I decided I was going to start working, and I needed to start making money because I wasn't going to college. My father wasn't going to pay for it, and I had no money. So I started in the phone company. And the only thing that I was good at in high school was mechanical drawing. It was a mechanical drawing class. So I became a draftsman in the engineering department in the phone company. It was the lowest position you could get in the phone company. And I was making $103 a week. This was back in 1970. And that wasn't even a lot of money then. And I just started to apply myself. And the number one thing that I did is I started to read. I was a terrible reader. All through my grammar school and high school, I was just horrible. I wasn't a good reader, and I decided that I was going to start reading. So I started reading as much as I could get my hands on. And as a result, I became a pretty good reader. Today I read a lot because I've got an attitude that I want to keep learning and learning and learning. So I started reading, and I also had, I developed an attitude that whatever I was going to do, I was going to be the best that I could possibly be at it. So as a draftsman, here I am sitting there, and I'm 17 years old, and there's a guy who's about 19, there's another guy who's 53, and another guy who's 35. And these are the 4 draftsmen that are sitting there. And after about 6 months of doing this, I'm looking at this guy who's 53, and I'm saying, is this where I'm going to be when I'm 53 years old? I said, no, that's not going to happen. So as a result, I just started to just do a lot of work. And I just started pumping out jobs for engineers, because I would draw them up. They would design them, and I would draw them all up. That's what a draftsman does. And after a while, the engineers would just come to me because they knew that they were going to get their jobs done very quickly. And the other guys didn't like me very much. But I didn't care, because I wasn't there to keep them happy. I was there to make me the best person that I could be. So at 20, I got promoted to a supervisor, the youngest supervisor in the phone company. And then I went from being a supervisor to being a course developer and a trainer. And I would develop engineering courses and train them to the draftsmen and the records clerks and the supervisors. And so that gave me a lot of experience in being able to get up in front of people and deliver a message. So then I went into a budgeting department, and at the time, the phone company was all owned by AT&T. So this is before you were born, but AT&T owned every phone company in the country. And the government said, you're too powerful, and they broke up the phone company. And so I worked on breaking up the phone company for 3 years, and I was in a budgeting department. That gave me a lot of experience in finance and accounting. Then I went into a regulatory department, and I became the person who was the interface between the phone company and the cable TV company, because the cable TV companies were putting their cables on our poles. We used to call them our poles, because they were the telephone poles. But the government said, no, you've got to allow cable to put their cables on the phone poles. So I would be the interface with those people. So that gave me a lot of experience on how to negotiate deals, because that's what we were doing. Then they decided that I should take on a little bit more responsibility, and I became a director in the regulatory department, and we created a concept called Opportunity New Jersey. And Opportunity New Jersey was where we were going to bring fiber optics to everybody's home by 2010. Now this was 1989. And in exchange for doing that, the government was going to deregulate us because we're a regulated company. So we created this concept and we started doing it. Well, today that's called FiOS. But it started out as this little project in New Jersey, in Toms River, New Jersey. And that's what happened with FiOS. So after I went through that for a while, I realized that I just needed to do more. And so I became an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is somebody who starts a business and they have a dream, and they try to figure out how they want to take that dream and go forward. Do you know any entrepreneurs? You know anybody that started their own business? No?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather, what did he do?
He paves. He's a
paver?
Yeah, and landscapes.
Cool. Yeah, starting your own business is really exciting. It's a little scary, but I decided that I wanted to do that. So I started a business with 3 other guys in marketing, and it was a terrible failure. We lost a lot of money, $1.3 million in a year and a half. I could have just quit right then and went back to the phone company, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. So my wife says, why don't we open up a preschool? She was working as a part-time teacher assistant in a preschool, and she said, we could just get a little classroom, maybe you could fix up our garage. What? You can't fix up your garage. But we found a little place around the corner from us, and we opened up in 1995, November of 95. And it was an immediate success. But one of the things that I realized is I didn't know anything about being in the child care business. I'd never even been in a child care center. So I knew that I needed to learn a lot about that business in order to be able to run it. So anytime you're going to be successful in the business that you're in, it doesn't matter if you're working for somebody or if you're starting your own business, you need to have specialized knowledge. You need to understand the business that you're in. So I needed to learn a lot. So I went and hired somebody who knew a lot about it, and she had 30 years of experience, and we just put our heads together and we just started to launch this business. Today, one of the most important things that I do is finding people who are really good at what they do and bringing them in. They like to say, I like to collect people. But I do. I put really good people around us because that's what's going to make us better and better and better. So we launched this company, and then it just took off, and parents started coming to us saying, I would really like to do this. Would you franchise it? So, anybody know what a franchise is? Brenda talked a little bit about this. McDonald's is a franchise, right? Okay. This is where somebody comes to you and says, I want to get into business, but I don't want to start the business from scratch. I want to get into the child care business, but I don't want to develop all the things that you developed. I would like if you just gave us a head start. So what we do is we package all that stuff up, all the things that Brenda talked about, the marketing and the advertising and all the curriculum that we teach and the way the buildings look and those designs, and we make that available to people who want to buy a franchise. And then what they do is they go into their own business and then they pay us a royalty. So Gigi talked about the royalty she gets on her books. Well, we get a lot better royalty than that. But, so we get a royalty, and that's what keeps us in business. So they pay royalties to us every single month, and that's how we are growing our business. So now we're in 4 states, and soon to be in 7 states, and we don't know where we're going to finish up. So, any questions? Yes?
About the royalties, was there like another deal where they could just give you a huger amount of money, like straight up as an offer?
And not pay royalties, you mean?
Yeah.
No, that's not the way franchising works. The key to franchising is it's that annuity that you get over and over and over again. No franchisor would do that. They would want to keep getting that money over and over because they've got to build the company. Franchise company, as a franchisor, we're really not in the child care business. What we are is we're a training company, a marketing company, an auditing company, because we have to audit to make sure that they are doing the things that we want them to do as our brand. So those are the things that we focus all of our attention on. And how do we make them as successful as we possibly can make them? Because we want them to be very successful. The more successful our franchisees are, the more successful we will be because we keep selling more franchises. People look at the success that those people have and they say, I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a good living doing this. And they run their business. It's their business, but they just happen to use our brand. So that's what a McDonald's franchisee does. That's what Dunkin' Donuts franchisee does. If you know the Goddard School, they are one of our competitors. That's what they do. That's what franchising is all about. Franchising right now has about 8 million people in it, in that industry in general, the franchise industry. There are about 4,000 franchises that are in the United States right now. I think we're ranked 274. So out of 4,000, we're ranked 274. McDonald's is always near number 1. McDonald's, Subway, 7-Eleven, they're always in that, Wendy's. But we're 274, which is a great place for us to be because we're a fairly young franchise company. We only have 40 centers open right now. But next year, the end of next year, we'll have 65 open. And the year after that, we're thinking that we're going to have close to 100 open. So we're starting to really take off and open up a lot of centers. But the cool thing about that is, every time we open up a center, we put another person into business, another family, usually is a family. So we're giving back by putting people into business. They're just using our model to do it. And every time they do it, they're providing that service to people in the community. So it's a great way to just keep growing and growing and growing and feeling really good about what you're doing, because it's all positive. We're helping little kids to develop in their first 5 years of life. Any other questions? No other questions? How much time do we have?
About another 20 minutes.
Another 20 minutes. Oh, wait. You should see me dance.
I'd pay for that.
All right, so let's talk about if you were going to start a business. How many people here think that at some point in the future they were going to start their own business?
I think they're lying, because I saw a lot of hands when I asked that question.
Oh yeah, think you got to go sooner?
I'm sorry? Oh, no, I
So how many people would like to start their own business? Yes, what would you thinking about what you'd like to do?
Yeah, I don't want to start my own like car business, like mechanics or that.
Like something in car industry?
Yeah,
Like selling cars, being
customizing.
Customizing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So, anybody else? Yes.
What's it called? I really enjoy reptiles. So
Reptiles?
So reptile breeding is like big right now. And what's it called? I like to do that like normally, just help out for free. So to make money off of it would be even better.
So you're not going to be one of those guys that bring the alligators back from Florida and flushes them down the toilet and they wind up in the sewer system. Then they made a horror movie about that, didn't they? Okay, cool.
How the alligators
Well, yeah, I guess then you could get into the snake business and you could pickle them and sell them in China.
Do something that actually too.
Okay, so one of the keys to franchising is to have not only the design that Brenda talked about, because every time you go into a McDonald's or a Dunkin' Donuts, you know that you're inside one of those places. They look the same. It's got the same branding over and over and over again. When we did this, we figured that, yeah, we're going to have the same brand, the same design, the same curriculum, but how are we going to ensure that when we open up a center in Pennsylvania or in Florida or in Virginia, that they were going to be running the same way that we're running our centers up here? So we came to the conclusion that the best way to do that was to establish a strong set of core values so that everybody would live those same core values. And by doing that, they would run the business the same way. So our core values are based on the word children. C means that we care deeply with every genuine interaction with everybody that's in something that we call our circle of care. And our circle of care is made up of 5 stakeholders: the child, the parent, the employees, the owners or the franchisees, and the community. And within the community, we include our vendors. So when we're making a decision, we start with caring for everybody that's in that circle of care. Now, some people would say, who's the most important person in running a business? Who would you say? The customer? There's no wrong answers here. Who else?
I think I'd probably say like the manager, person that like manages the money.
The employees? Okay. So some people would say, when the customer's happy, then the money just flows. Or when the employees are happy, the customers are happy, right? I look at this and say, that's a bunch of baloney. Because we look at it and we say, those 5 stakeholders are critical to the success of the business. You need every one of them in order to make a business run. You have to have, in our case, you have to have the children, because we're in childcare. You have to have the parents, because the parents are paying the bills. You have to have the employees, because you have no business without the employees. In our case, you need to have the franchisees or the investors, or you have no business, you have no buildings, you have no furniture, you have nothing, right? And we have the community. So in the community, we include our vendors. So those vendors provide critical services and products to us to keep everything moving and delivering the service that we have. So if you take one of those away, you can't run the business. So we look at it as if the circle of care is really our family. So when you look at people in your family, you don't look, at least I hope you don't do this, you don't look at people and say, this person is more important than this person, right? We don't think in those terms when we think in family, right? We've got our brothers and our sisters and our mothers and our fathers and our aunts and our uncles and everybody else that makes up a family unit. And we look at them and we say, all right, they're all in our family, we love all of them. Maybe there's a couple we're not too crazy about, but they're in our family. We look at it the same way. So we don't put one person over another. We say everybody is important to running the business, and that's how we look at our circle of care. H is for happiness. When I started this business, I came from the phone company. This was not a happy place. The phone company, like many, many big businesses, is all about who can make the other person look bad and how can I get the next promotion. And it wasn't a happy place, and I just made the decision that if we were going to start our own business, we're going to create a happy environment. So we work hard at creating a happy environment. So we try to create that environment for the children, for the parents, for the employees, for our franchisees, and for our vendors as well. I is for integrity. So we look at the business that we're in and we say we're really in the trust business. People are putting their most prized possession in the world in our care, the care of a stranger. It's the hardest thing for a parent to do. So when they hand that baby over to us, it's very difficult. Now, none of you have babies. I hope now you're freshmen. That wouldn't be a good thing. But at some point when you have children, if you have children, you're going to fall in love with those kids. And when you have to hand those kids over to somebody to take care of them for you, it's really, really difficult. It's hard to do. So we have to empathize with what those parents are going through, and we have to build trust. We have to make it comfortable for them to be able to hand that baby over. So when we're building trust is like, a drop in a bucket. It takes a long time to fill that bucket up. And if you knock it over, you never get it back. So you always have to be working on building trust. And it doesn't matter if it's in our business or in any business, in any relationship that you have. You always have to be building trust. If you're building trust, then you're going to find people will gravitate to you. Okay, L is lead by example. So we consider everybody in this company, and we have 1,200 people in this company right now, to be a leader. Everybody is a leader because those teachers and teacher assistants that are operating in the classroom are leading those children. And they've got to set a positive example for those children, positive role model. So we think of them as leaders. We want them to think of themselves as leaders because they are. And when you have a bunch of leaders, you will find that people will get very creative in the way you do things. And as long as you're willing to stay open to the ideas that they bring to the table, then you will keep getting better and better and better. D is delivering wow customer service. So when you think of some companies that deliver exceptional customer service, who comes to mind? Who's a great customer service company?
Chick-fil-A.
Yep. They're absolutely at the top of the list. Who else? Have you ever been to Disney?
Oh, yeah.
Disney's an excellent customer service company. If you've ever had the opportunity to stay in a Ritz-Carlton, excellent service company.
Zappos.
Zappos. If you buy shoes online, it's Zappos. Excellent service company. There's a lot of stories about Zappos. I'll tell you a quick story about Zappos. So the executives of Zappos are in a meeting. It's 10 o'clock at night. They're in San Francisco. Zappos is located in Chicago, Illinois, somewhere around the middle of the country. So they're hungry. And one person says to the head, his name is Tony Shea, he says, I'm really hungry. I could use something to eat. He says, well, let's get a pizza. All right, so where are we going to find a pizza? We're in San Francisco. We don't know where we are. So he says, well, call up Zappos. Now, this is a shoe company, an online shoe company. He says, Zappos? What are you talking about? He says, call up Zappos. Don't tell them who you are. Just tell them where we are and we're looking for a pizza. He calls up Zappos and he says, we're in a boardroom in San Francisco. Here's our address. We're looking for a pizza. Can you help us out? Silence. After maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, the person on the other end says, give me a minute. Comes back a minute later and says, I found 4 pizzerias in your area. 2 will deliver. Would you like me to place the order? He says, what just happened there? This is a shoe company who's about to place the order for pizzas. Now, Zappos looks at this and says, we are in the happiness business. We deliver happiness, and that's our mission. So they realize that if they help this person out now with the pizza delivery, the next time they're looking for shoes, they're coming to Zappos. That's just the attitude that they have. That's delivering wow customer service. So we try to do the same thing. We look to deliver an exceptional customer experience. R is for building strong relationships and recognizing accomplishments. So I'll give you an example of how we do this. So in a child care center, we've got usually a capacity of about 170 to 180 children. But the directors are usually invoicing about 200 or more because some children come 2 days a week, some come 3 days a week. You put those two together and get one seat filled, right? So let's say they're invoicing 200 children. That's 200 children. That's another 400 parents. That's 600. Throw in another 100 aunts, uncles, friends who might be picking up. That's 700 people that they have to have a relationship with. Try and remember the names and something interesting about 700 people. It's very, very difficult to do. But that is the most important thing that our directors can do. Because when you're building those strong relationships with your customers, those customers are not going to leave you when the competition comes down the street. So the next new shiny place that opens up down the street, it's not going to pull your customers away because your customers feel like they are part of your family. Because you know their name. You know their children's name. You know that they just went to the mountains for the weekend and you had a conversation with them about it. Or whatever it is, but building those relationships is really, really important in our business. And I would say that it's really important in any business. All right, E is for excellence. Excellence is an attitude of good enough never is. If you're just going to do things that say, oh, that's good enough, you're never going to be exceptional. Always do the thing the best that you can possibly do it and be the best that you can possibly be. And you'll live a life of excellence. Excellence is not perfection. You can't reach perfection. But you can always work to be the best that you can possibly be. And also, for us, it means policing the product. Policing the product means the product that you put out is the product that is delivered. You have to make sure that whatever it is you're putting out, whatever service or product that you're creating and delivering to the consumer, is constantly being delivered the way you want it delivered. It's quality assurance. You need to make sure that that's never slipping and it's always the right product. Imagine a food company like McDonald's who didn't care about their quality and all of a sudden things just start going the wrong way and people start getting sick from eating their food. That would be terrible. But they're always policing the product and make sure that that doesn't happen. The last one is N for nurturing. We are a nurturing company by nature because we're taking care of children, but we don't see ourselves as just nurturing children through this journey. We're nurturing parents through this journey. We're nurturing employees through this journey, franchisees. We're helping everybody along the way just with their journey. And when you take that approach, people will help you in return. So those are our core values, and I would strongly suggest that whether you're in business or just in life in general, establish your own level of core values, your own list, and live by them. And when you do that, it makes decisions that you have to make in your life a lot easier because you just bounce them off of your core values and say, is this something that would be in alignment with the way I want to live? And if it is, you do it. If it's not, you don't. It's pretty simple. So mission statement and core values are two things that I would leave you with that would really help. Because you really don't know what you want to be. Who does? I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.